Hello, this is First Fire Non-Assault Move. Welcome back to the 52nd episode in the War in the East series. This video will cover turn 104. We'll get a sit rep, what happened during turn 104. Then we'll watch the Soviets turn. Then I'll go about moving and attacking for the Germans' turn on 105. Then we'll watch the Soviets' turn for 105, and that will encompass this episode. So let's get a situation report. When last we left off, we saw that the mud had arrived in the critical North Soviet zone, which covered both the encirclements. Fortunately, as we talked about last video, it was imperative that we complete both encirclements in 1 week's time before mud comes and interrupts, and that's exactly what they did. Let's start with Talonin. Ha! Look at that. We took Talonin at last, at very last. And we also cleared out from Talonin. How about that? Finally, it only took one attack. They had a fort level of 134. It was reduced to 0, and both units surrendered. A cheer went up all across the German, the fatherland. It was in the news. It was talked about over water coolers and in coffee houses. Talonin fell at last. Finally. And look at the forces that it freed up. Where we sent them, we pulled out. Let's get back to this mode. We pulled out the 26th Infantry Corps and the Luftwaffe 3rd Field Corps headquarters. The Luftwaffe field divisions are heading over here to strengthen the Leningrad sector, and we are moving the 26th Infantry Corps down here, where we have already moved the 56th Panzer Corps. Yes, indeed. So that strong infantry corps actually has about 4 or 5 divisions, along with the 56th Panzer Corps, soon to be joined by the 36th Panzer Corps farther to the south. This is kind of preliminary foreshadowing what we're going to talk about either in this episode or the next. Some grand strategy, future plans, grand strategic future plans. Now we're going to start assembling forces here, and we can talk about why in a little bit. No change along all of the Leningrad sector, the Pskov sector, the Veliky Luki sector. No change at all, no attacks. Very nicely organized with our infantry corps, good command and control, and we're just screening this force that we have no intention of attacking in the immediate future. Moving down all the way along the Moscow sector. No attacks, obviously, because it's all mud and neither side does any attacking in the mud. Let's get a zoom in here along the Tula sector. We took Tula. We talked about that last turn, right? Yes, we did. So Tula has been secured. Excellent. And here, all our troops are locked in mud. We moved within, we compressed the pocket here and there where we could with our infantry divisions. We didn't budge any of our motorized divisions or tank divisions that are in the mud. We still have strong forces here around Tula, and that, yeah, these concentrations of our own forces can be talked about for future ops. But right now, let's just cover this part. We can see the Soviets kind of bunch up within the pockets. That's been their SOP. They kind of collapse, and that's okay because it makes it a lot easier to track them down and destroy them. Likewise here. I had said I was worried about this strung out German line of German formations here that secured the inner and outer perimeter, really, that they would be attacked and be very vulnerable. However, because it was mud, that's an obvious, thing that they can't attack. The Soviets can't attack either. So these German forces are perfectly safe right now. Look at what they are building up already. We talked about that. I'm not defeated anymore. I'm in high spirits, high morale, very motivated to continue the fight here against the Soviet forces. All these forces will be destroyed should there be clear ground in the next week. So that would be great to have that. And what will really have to happen is a significant amount of German reorganization and getting our forces back to the front. Whether there is clear ground or not, it's going to take a little bit to get our forces back arrayed into attack positions to continue the offensive. And that's all right, because I am not entirely sure what the next steps should be. Moving further south past the southern pocket, down where we have solid ground, no change along this front. We did make some attacks just to push the Soviets back over this river. We want a bridgehead over here. We'd like to start destroying some of these Soviet forces further to the south around the Voroshilovgrad sector. And look at that. That's the other big news. Rostov fell with the first attack. We had they held us. I stand corrected. We did take it the second time around. Look here, we tried with just 3 infantry divisions. We had a great amount. We were stacked up 3 high with a 3 heck attack surface. We could have attacked with 9 divisions. We didn't. We took some losses. We did reduce their fort levels marginally. Then we threw in both panzer divisions and we brought in the tanks. We did have 31 of our AFVs damaged. So that's a significant blow. 31, that's no small potatoes with between 2 panzer divisions with a complement of around 160-ish, ballpark. So they took losses, but we got Rostov right off the bat. It was only 1 Soviet formation defending, a rifle corps, totally destroyed their fortifications, smashed through, took the city by storm. And that's great. That is off the Germans' plate in the south. That was their primary objective. Again, that's kind of a segue into grand strategy topics moving forward. Where do the Germans go in Army Group South next? That's a compelling question, and we're going to probably answer that, and maybe not this episode, but in the next one. We'll have a thorough planning discussion moving forward for 1943. The Germans will be busy for now without worrying about the next stages. We can make some preparatory moves. We pulled out the 54th Infantry Corps. There's no need to have any more. There's no need to build up combat power in this region right now. We have no intentions whatsoever. We're kind of ruling out some grand strategy. We talked about moving down and taking Krasnodar, and we're not going to do that. And moving a little north here, we no longer have the 38th Panzer Corps. We moved it up, and we're probably going to move the 38th in line here and start to look at destroying some of the Soviet field army once this pocket is cleared up. This Panzer Corps grouping can turn south and take some of the Soviet field army out of action, maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks in this sector. Destroying the Soviet field army piece by piece. This won't be as great of an encirclement. We might not even try that based on how the Soviets react and what the front looks like after we clear up the pockets. But that is a decision I made to pull out the 38th. There is no point for them being down here. There's nowhere for them to go. These very strong infantry corps don't need the support. And we'll clean this up. We're going to more than likely push the Soviets back. We made some attacks here just to threaten and make the Soviets go back and get along the west side of the Don here and there. I don't think I'll occupy the bend of the Donets and the Don. More than likely we will not. That is really the situation report for turn 104. I'd like to talk a little bit more about overarching grand strategic objectives, but I don't have the plans in my head yet to discuss in too thorough detail. However, I want to point out something that definitely factors in to future considerations. We are now at 214 victory points, which puts us strongly, well, a nice foothold in an Axis major victory. So, do the math. I did the math. I think it's 290. 70 would put it at 76, right? 84, 90. 76 more victory points are needed for an automatic Axis decisive victory. We get 3 points for a light urban. We get 1 point for a city hex. Doing the math, 76 points. How many light urban objectives and city objectives would that take to achieve 290? I was doing some counting, and really, we would have to pretty much occupy the entire map to get close to 290. Absurd forward line of troops. Kazan, back here, past all these mountain ranges. Take Stalingrad. Even if we took Moscow and Leningrad, I think we get we get bonus points for taking Leningrad and Moscow, but they would not put us anywhere close to a 290 victory point total. Moscow is, I'm setting my sights on Moscow, and we can talk about that later on. Moscow, keep that on the burner. Moscow, even though incredible Soviet concentrations in front of Moscow and protecting the flanks of Moscow, not as strong on the flanks, which can factor into some planning considerations, one of them being this. Build up, we're planning here. The first shaping op for any concentration of German combat power here is to take Rizev, finally, and then maybe threaten Kalinin. I guess we're kind of talking a little bit plans, big plans right now. Those could be immediate objectives. Rizev, threatening Kalinin, and we definitely want to take Rizev, and we definitely have the combat power to achieve that. In the process of doing so, we may not get the encirclements that we like. We cannot lose sight of the fact that we want to destroy the Soviet field army as much as possible. Those are some territorial objectives to think about, and that would put us strongly to the south and strongly to the north of Moscow. We talked about an obscenely large encirclement of the Soviet field army in front of Moscow. Haha. Just a thought, something to mull over. We are ready to hit next turn. We'll leave it at that. Before next turn, I almost forgot, let's talk about losses. Very light losses for the Germans. We didn't conduct very many attacks. Soviets up to 114,000 troops. Lost during this turn. Light AFE losses, very light. Here, bulk of this really was taken out of Tallinn with those 2 infantry corps. Did we destroy any other? What else did we force to surrender? Just 3. Where did these come from? These are outright destroyed. I don't remember where these came from. There was 2 in Tallinn, the 95th and Rifle, because we're over 100,000. How did I lose track of that? Where else did we have encircled Soviets? Not down here. Oh, yes. Okay, I know exactly where. If you remember, here we go. We can find that out. We destroyed. They retreated. Yes, that division retreated here. And then we had 30,000 right here. There was 2 corps that were isolated that moved out of Taganrog. Okay, that's where we get the over 100,000 Soviet losses. Go back here. How close are we Ooh, we eclipsed 11 million. Fantastic. Very good. So those are the losses for this turn. Now let's do next turn. We'll look over the pockets, although we'll shift around. Oops. Well, you know why? Get battles on. All right, let's get settled in here. Let's do next turn. One of the things to think about when we talk about overarching grand strategy is our withdrawal and reinforcement schedule. It's kind of cheating a little bit because I guess the Germans really wouldn't know exactly what they're going to receive a year from now, or what will be withdrawn a year from now. But we will cheat a little bit and start and get a little idea what's going to look like for the German field army. Yeah, they saw Hungarian. Oh, they moved up there. I was wondering if they're going to do that. All right, good. We'll move into that swamp then. Destroy that Brazen Guards Infantry Division. Yes, the withdrawal and reinforcement schedule. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. We can talk in depth about that probably in the next episode. Here come the bombs, and I will cut scene, and I'll get back to you. Alright, we are back to review the losses screen. 12,000 for the Germans. Very standard stuff for the Soviets during mud turns. And look at this, look at this. Mud, again. Central Soviet zone, South Soviet zone, mud, mud, clear. North Soviet zone. What does that mean for the pockets? I think because North Soviet zone was mud last time, we weren't able to destroy the Soviets in the pockets. Now we should. Look at, they all migrated to the mud. Oh my God, are you kidding me? That's funny. And they're sneaking through the gaps. As if they knew to find sanctuary in the mud further west. Wow. Oh, all of the Soviets are in clear the southern pocket. All right. Well, at least we should be able to finish them off. Because these German formations are in mud, we're not going to attack out of it, obviously. We're going to have to destroy them. They may not all be destroyed. At least we can tidy up this part of the front and start to get into some good order and move some of our forces back to the front. More than likely, though, this is going to take a whole turn, and some Soviets will remain. Soviets live to fight another day within the pocket, trying to sneak out west. Yep, jailbreak west. I guess it's more favorable to head towards German rifle regiments, infantry regiments, and some cavalry brigades and Hungarians than a whole host of panzer divisions. All right, that's a bummer. Again, mud is affecting offensive operations. Third week of June. We expected this. We are hoping not. We are hoping not. This turn as well will be a relatively short turn. There's stuff we can do. Well, really? No, there's really nothing we can do except several attacks here within the pockets, more organization, and getting maybe this 23rd. No, we're not even going to move the 23rd. We did rail on. We did move the 36th Panzer Corps onto Axis rail. We may rail them up to join the 56th Panzer Corps here. We're also going to bring down, what was that? The 26 as well. All right, so those forces will join to start forming an attacking group that we will insert into the front around here in attempts to take Ryazov as one of the intermediate objectives, or short-term objectives we can say. Well, with weather in effect, it could be in a couple weeks we'll be able to achieve that. That's a bummer. That is a bummer. I guess one consolation is that we now can conduct serious offensive operations in the winter. Not optimal, but we did incredible damage to the Soviets during the winter of 1942-1943. That compensates a little bit with having, again, a very late start to offensive operations in 1943. Boy, oh boy. Mud, mud, mud. We won't belabor that. I will go about conducting moves and attacks, and I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. No change from the Leningrad front all the way down to the Velikaya Luki sector. We are in mud, so no attacks or no moves as well. Pretty well positioned here. The 26th Infantry Corps has made it down. We railed them down to start to assemble along with the 56th Panzer Corps, which is moved a little bit more to the south of Ryazov. And also one of 36th Panzer Corps' divisions has moved up and been reassigned to the 56th. So starting to build up forces here in this sector. No change along this part of the front in front of Moscow. And let's look at the pockets. Well, I said that there wasn't going to be much really to do this turn because of the mud. However, there was a lot of detail, a lot of administrative moves, and getting in good order and trying to get our forces back up to the front. We took out of line all our panzer divisions and motorized divisions, relieved them in place with infantry divisions that could make it. We'll start with the north pocket here. Soviets retreated a number of times. We did get some Soviet formations to surrender, but largely most of the force is still intact in the northern pocket. And the same can be said really for the southern pocket. We moved down. We tried to combine getting our forces to the front, organizing the front, at the same time destroying the Soviets within the pockets, and then dealing with mud. It was a cluster, a potpourri of formations, a messy situation. We have cleaned it up as best we can right now. Bottom line, the Soviets remain in the pockets. A significant amount in each one, actually. What were the losses so far for moves and attacks? Under 20,000 for the Germans. We did force a number of their formations to surrender, so they're up to 130,000. Yep, 130 right there. And most of the losses came from Soviet surrendering. It's a gaggle in here, and we really have to get it sorted out sooner than later, but we're on the way. We're on the way to doing that. We did a lot of reassignment of divisions to new corps headquarters to keep everyone in command and control and good supply. That is really the story of the pocket. It still looks a mess, but believe me, it was worse. It was worse before we started this turn, and now it's looking a little better. And Lord help us, we get clear weather across all Soviet zones, and we can finish off these Soviets here. Let's point out, before I forget, let's just look at these concentrations the Soviets have built up with an entire front removed, 170 miles of their front removed. They have now assembled, in a number of places, 3 high stacks of Soviet formations. Pretty strong ones, too. This could be a target for future ops for the Germans, and I'm thinking about that. I'm really starting to think about that. The big hindrance to such an operation to encircle the forces really with center mass would be in Voronezh. Anyways, Voronezh, that would be the center mass, center of gravity, and we would break out here and to the south. The big hindrance would be getting over the Don to the south. Soviets have a number of forces easily blocking the Germans for at least a couple turns, and then we'd have to get over the Don somewhere. We may have to try a little further south than I'd like to accomplish that, but this is an extreme amount of Soviet forces to potentially surround. We may have to settle for smaller chunks in the next couple of weeks. More than likely, that's the way it will play out, but this is something to consider. The next significant action that took place is a little bit to the east of Tula. We broke out east of Tula, got over the river, so that's no longer a defensive position for the Soviets, and this will be for future operations. We don't want to expand any further to alarm the Soviets. We could have easily pushed further east. We want these Soviets to remain in place and maybe break out here and encircle this concentration of Soviets. This is nice. We've gathered a number of infantry corps, and we had the 2nd SS, and I believe the 57th is in here as well. So a nice strong grouping of our forces to conduct offensive operations in the next couple of weeks. Where do they go? They have a couple of options. A drive straight to Ryazan or to contribute to an encirclement of these Soviet forces. And as we travel further south, we look at our situation with Army Group South. The bulk of their forces locked in mud. The Soviets have moved up one division there. We cut them off by taking this swamp hex, and we also very likely will be able to surround this Guards Cavalry Corps, and we just got to clean this up once the mud is done. And we stripped some of the forces away, mostly just going to defend with 1 or 2 infantry corps. A solid line. The Soviets are starting to assemble some forces here in fear that we might have had intentions to attack to the south and relieve the Romanians in the Crimea region, or maybe attack towards Stalingrad. We're not going to do either of those, but the Soviets don't know that, so they're starting to form a defensive line here as well. And that summarizes turn 105. A lot happened within the pockets. Doesn't really show it, but we did have to conduct a lot of logistical and administrative moves. We should be ready for next turn. Zoom in a little better. Here we go. Mud has been a real pain in the butt the past 2 weeks of action. Hopefully we can get some clear weather from now until when mud starts in the fall, and then we have the thaw. Then we have the freeze, and then the winter. We'll see if the Soviets pull out south of Tula. We didn't make any moves to the south. We went east, but we didn't make any moves to the south. So hopefully the pressure is not too alarming for them. The idea is, again, to destroy the Soviet field army and also take a chunk out of the Soviet forces that are on the flanks of Moscow to the north and south. Don't anticipate very many attacks since the large part of our front is locked in mud. And there we have it. That was the Soviets' turn, and the bombs are raining down upon us. So I'm going to cut scene, and we'll be back to review the losses. All right, the bombing runs have ceased. Let's take a look at losses. Very light losses for the Germans. I don't think the Soviets attacked at all. Very light losses for them, consequently. And it's looking good. What do we have? Clear, clear, clear. A shout goes up across the German lines. Offensive operations can commence, and hopefully we can destroy these gosh darn Soviet formations in the pocket. And we'll take a look again at this concentration of Soviet forces all through here. It's ooh. Well, let's get an aero recon in this region. I'm sure it's thicker than it's looking like right now. Unless they pulled some out. I doubt it. Do an aerial recon real quick. See what we have to deal with. There we go. Yeah. Although headquarter, it's still pretty substantial defensive line they've established in front of us, and building up some fort levels as well. May have to break out here, get a bridgehead south of Rosne if we're going to start thinking about destroying the Soviets. Sorry. Well, they just formed a mini encirclement for us. That was kind of them. All right. Any tank corps in there? No. Oh, a mechanized. Very good. I don't know what they're doing there. We could break out here easier. Yeah, it'd just be any southern axis of advance would be kind of difficult to get over the Don, like we were just talking about. All right, what did the Soviets do in front of Tula? Ooh, they kept their forces here. Oh no, they pulled back a little bit. We're not in position to conduct an encirclement of these Soviet forces, so we will not attack any further in this forming Tula salient of ours. We're going to finish off the pocket, let this grouping of our forces get back into the line and start forming, as we had to achieve these two pockets, a strong panzer grouping with infantry corps to the north, to the center, and to the south. We'll try to resemble that again in some form or fashion once we finish off the Soviets. Very good. And we'll definitely push back these Soviets and that one as well and get a 4-corps mini pocket for next turn. Oh? Wait a second. That's new. Großdeutschland? Let's... What? Yeah, they became a Panzer Grenadier Division now. Very nice. That is sexy looking. I like that. Yeah, they are motorized. If I'm not... I'm not mistaken. That's really cool. All right, great. No change here. Any shenanigans? Any Soviets pushing? Well, they're not given any ground in this sector. And Moscow looking a little lighter. Do we start? No, you know what? There's no need to press forward towards Moscow if we have designs to encircle these forces in some shape. Yeah. What's it looking like up here? No change. Our defensive values are growing larger and larger each turn, and I feel pretty darn secure throughout this part of the front. And no attacks. Well, it was mud, so maybe these Soviet forces will start to attack some of our weaker Luftwaffe field divisions, but now they are also starting to develop. Ooh, fort level 2 already. Look at that. And that is fort level 3. Very nice. So we may pin in these Soviet formations. I don't know. It's just... I don't know how you're going to get to the... This is like 300, right? Sparta. Holding off along this tiny channel. Holding off the Germans. Tallinn fell, though. Haha. We have Tallinn. Very good. And our Romanians, you know, I haven't talked about our Romanians. I don't think I talked about them at all. What are they up to? Soviets have considerable forces here in and around Sevastopol. Certainly strong enough to hold off the Romanians. And yeah, the Romanians aren't getting any further east here on this tiny neck of land with defense value of 78. Stalemate. That's all right. It's a good job for the Romanians. Keeps this flank secure. I would like to take the Crimea, but yeah, it's all right now. Very good. All right, and some partisans have started to creep in. We'll chase those off. So for turn 106, the plan is to destroy both pockets, get back into a line, and start assembling our panzer groupings and our infantry corps, supporting infantry corps in those 3 primary places, with designs to continue to destroy the Soviet field army. This looks pretty decent. We could secure a fairly decent amount of Soviets here. What we may do, some small shipping ops just to get up to the river, maybe even get a bridgehead over. We don't want to spook the Soviets, though. We don't want these forces to get away. And then we're north over the river systems here and can attack a little south towards Voronezh. And there's Ryazan as well. And now we'll have the 26th Infantry Corps in line. We'll rail up another Panzer Division. Maybe we'll have the rail capacity to bring up the entire corps. I think there's just 2 Panzer Divisions and the Corps headquarters for 36. We could bring them up here as well. And do something about this, which may trigger some other reactions from the Soviets. Should we take Ryazan? All right. We're going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed watching. This is First Fire, non-assault move out.